Welcome to Saturday Morning Rewind, a show dedicated to the love of animation and feeling like a kid again. Let's go back in time to when cats defended Third Earth.
Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight.
A masked duck protected the streets of St. Canard.
I am the terror that flaps in the night.
And knowing was half the battle.
Yo, Joe!
Let's go back with Saturday Morning Rewind and your host, Tim Nydell.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Saturday Morning Rewind with your host Tim Nydell. Make sure you're following us online. It's at Saturday Rewind, and my personal one is at Tim_Nydell. And for this episode, I have the one and only Janice Karman on the show today, the creator of the Chipettes and the voice of Theodore.
I'll have 2 cheese enchiladas with extra sauce, a tostada grande, the quesadilla with a side of guacamole.
Brittany.
Dream on, Tiny Tim.
Jeanette.
Simon, which route do you think we should take to Bermuda?
And Eleanor.
We've got to get this little guy back to Antarctica. He'll die if we don't.
From Alvin and the Chipmunks from the early 80s, a cartoon that I just adored as a kid. And of course, from the 1987 animated movie, The Chipmunk Adventure, which is easily my favorite animated non-Disney movie of all time. Before I play the interview, did you know that there are multiple ways to help the show out? First, you can always leave a positive iTunes rating. Second, just spread the word. Share some of our interviews with your friends and family on social media or just even in person. And third, you can become an executive producer or producer of the show, just like our executive producer of this episode, Mike Clemens, and our producers, TJ Garvin, Gemma Bright, Alan Dragon, and Luis Carlos Alvarez. Become a producer yourself by visiting us online, SaturdayMorningRewind.com, and visiting the donation tab on our website. You can join our Patreon family for just $2 or more a month, and all the proceeds go towards the show.
This is Doofus here from DuckTales. We interrupt this program to bring you this very important interview from Saturday Morning Rewind. I know Huey, Dewey, and Louie like it too.
Let's go back a little ways. Let's go back to the beginning of this beautiful relationship between you and Ross. How did you meet Ross? How did that relationship start?
So I met Ross at a restaurant. He was eating dinner with a friend I knew, and I went up to say hi to her, and I was probably talking to them for about 2 to 3 minutes, then went back to my table. And the next day, I got a beautiful bouquet of flowers that arrived at my work, and it said from Ross. But I'm terrible with names, so I didn't know who Ross was. But then a couple days later, another beautiful bouquet came, and then another, and they all said from Ross. And I felt horrible because I knew somebody was sending me these. And I couldn't for the life of me remember who this was. And finally I got a call from him, and he asked if I liked the flowers. And I said, "Oh, Ross, they're beautiful. I just love them. Who are you?" And he was a little miffed that he hadn't made the impression on me that he had hoped, but he quickly recovered from that and then just kept asking me out. And he must have asked me out for about a month.
Wow.
And I finally said okay. And we went to dinner, and it was lovely. And then after dinner, he took me to his dad's office. Now, I didn't know that he was the son of Ross Bagdasarian Jr.
That's what I was wondering.
So we went to his office, and he played me one of the Chipmunk TV episodes from the 60s. And I thought it was so charming, but I didn't know why he was having me watch a Chipmunk episode until he told me that his dad had created them, and his dad had passed away a few years earlier. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to just bring them back for a year as a tribute to his dad. And he asked me if I was interested in helping him. And I thought that was so charming and so sweet. And I thought, yeah, how easy is that going to be? You know? And it turned out it wasn't easy at all. It took us years.
I'm so glad that you said yes, because we wouldn't have what we have today without both of you working together.
Yeah, we work beautifully. We really do. We work beautifully together.
I mean, what's it like working with your husband every day?
You know, there are, I have to be honest, when we're recording, I'm very, very specific. And it's not an easy process because we're talking at a slower speed. So you have to get all the, you know, you have to understand it, and you have to have the inflection. And so I'm a bit of a dictator. And although he tells me he loves me every day, I know that when we're recording, he doesn't love me. And there are times, like at 2:00 in the morning, I will wake up and I'll just nudge him a little and I'll say, you know, Ross, we can do that line better. We have to re-record that line. And I know at those times he doesn't love me so much either. But yeah, it's a pretty great working relationship.
Tell me about the creation of the Chipettes. When did that come to be? Was it for the 1980s cartoon, or were they made prior to that?
It was created in 1982, just after, you know, before the series started, because I wanted to sing all the great female songs.
Oh.
And we were just covering male songs. And there were so many great female songs. And it just occurred to me, like, of course, just make female chipmunks, counterparts to Alvin, Simon, and Theodore. And so I created Brittany, who was created to give Alvin a hard time. And she's sassy and she's self-centered and she's a leader like Alvin, but also like Alvin, she has a great heart. And that's the thing. As you know, much as Alvin pushes the envelope, you have to like him at the end of the day. Yep. And that's what Ross Sr. did so beautifully. So I kept that going. And then Jeanette, she's smart. She wears glasses like Simon. And they're both kind. So I guess that's a similarity. But she's clumsy and she's absent-minded and she's caring and she's ethereal and she wants everyone to get along. And then Eleanor loves food like Theodore. That's probably, you know, what ties them together. But she's also spunky and she's no nonsense and she's super organized and she's a great athlete. And I was doing all the voices at that time. Mm-hmm. And now for this series, I've given that voice to Vanessa, my daughter, and she's just killing it. I wish I had her, 20 years earlier.
To ease a little bit of that work load that you had.
Exactly. I should have had a dozen kids.
And when it comes to the voices, you said you already have to talk slower when doing the voices. But what else did you do for the voices to kind of match their personalities before all the speeding up to make them sound like the Chipmunks?
Theodore, he's very, very young and he's very, very sweet and he's tentative. And so you do that at half speed, and he's very naive and very, very, very sweet. So that's Theodore. And with Brittany, she's just, very opinionated. And she's just sick of what Alvin does all the time. She gives him a hard time all the time. And Jeanette is she's more, she's ethereal and she thinks about a lot, and she just doesn't know why we can't all get along. And so each one has to you have to just get into their DNA when you're in front of the mic and go, okay, this is Theodore, and now I'm going to be a little abrasive and be Brittany, and then as sweet as I can muster up for Jeanette.
So pretty much what I heard there was what you would sound like behind the microphone before all the post.
Right. But it's also at a slower speed. So to get the inflections and to get every word so that it can be understood is the challenge.
Let's talk about the 80s cartoon, which is easily one of my all-time favorite cartoons. I was 3 when it came out, so that's like the perfect age to start loving the Chipmunks, you know? So I just adored that cartoon. Still do. It still holds up. And I even remember taking my portable cassette player, holding it to the TV, and recording every single song that was on every episode, and I made my own Alvin and the Chipmunks soundtrack that I'd later listen to in my bedroom. So I was obsessed with that cartoon.
Oh, Tim, I love you.
Well, thank you. When it comes to the series, like, how did that series come to be? Was it a hard thing to create, to pitch to studios, to make? How did Alvin and the Chipmunks come to be?
Well, first of all, like I said, it took us years to convince anyone to do a Chipmunk project, whether it was music or TV or anything. But after our first album, Chipmunk Punk, sold over 1 million albums, all those doors that were shut in our faces suddenly opened up. And NBC gave us the go-ahead for our first special, which was a Chipmunk Christmas. Mm-hmm. And 35 million people saw that special, and that led to our TV series on NBC. So that was several years, but luckily the series was a giant success. 40% of people watching TV were watching the show.
Wow.
And that series ran for 8 years, and then another 12 years in syndication. So 8 years on NBC, and then syndication, and played in 100 countries around the world. So thank God it was a success.
Yeah, no kidding. And like I said, the music involved was just amazing. But I can't imagine what it took for you guys to get the rights to all those hugely popular songs.
Right. So when we started in the early 80s, sync licenses weren't expensive, and you could cover a Beatles song or a Madonna song or any of the big hits like Sharp Dressed Man or Bad to the Bone. You just got a sync license. Huh. Today, hit popular songs are much more expensive, and TV shows, certainly Saturday morning shows, don't have the budget for it. So in our new series now, we do all originals.
Is that the reason why we haven't had a true like home release featuring all the episodes, not just little, episodes here and there, like the full animated series? Is that what's kind of tying up a true DVD release?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, who knows? Maybe one day, the heavens will open up and like allow you to release Alvin the Chipmunks on home video.
That would be nice.
Now, I wanted to talk about The Chipmunk Adventure from 1987. I'm not lying when I say it's easily my favorite non-Disney animated movie of all time.
Oh.
It's truly remarkable. I love it still today. I watch it at least once a year today. My kids love it too.
Oh, I love hearing that.
And you were highly involved in that movie, right?
Oh, yeah. So what happened was an overseas studio contacted us, and they said that they would give us Disney quality animation for a fraction of the price if we paid up front. Now, we were already doing a TV series. We were building a house. I was pregnant with our first child. And so, of course, we said, of course, sure, why not? Let's just add that to the list. And while this sounds stupid in retrospect, our thought was that by doing a feature, we could finally get a project with the quality of animation that we had fallen in love with as kids. Mm-hmm. And so we hired this fantastic animator to direct the movie. But after a few months of pre-production, he became overwhelmed and he left. Huh. And so Ross turned to me and he said, "Tag, you're it." And since we couldn't find anyone else, I reluctantly agreed. I had never directed before.
Yeah.
But I thought, we're stuck. I got to do this. But after a year of production, we only had a minute of animation, and our delivery date was coming up very fast.
Oh, wow.
so I took a surprise trip to the studio and realized that no one was working on our movie.
Wow.
So I had to travel everywhere, handing out layouts to animators and, just saying, okay, this is the intention of the scene. This is the emotion. I need it next week. Okay, this is the intention of the scene. This is the emotion. I need it next week. All, to every place I could find an animator, I would say, can you draw a circle? let me give you some animation. Yeah. And so, Ross and I really didn't know what we had when we finished. We were snowblind at that point, and we had only seen it in its entirety once at the premiere. And then we didn't see it for 20 years. We were just thinking glass half empty instead of glass half full.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, it was on TV, and we watched it. And I was just, biting my nails. And finally, I started to relax about 20 minutes into it and saying, oh, there's a lot here that I really like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I mean, you should be like that. Like I said, that's my favorite non-Disney. And even including Disney, it's still in the top 10 with me of all time. So
thank you. Thank you.
You did something right there. But I was also reading that because of that, a lot kind of went out of the story that you and Ross wrote. Was that right? Because of the limitation on money and time?
Yeah, there were scenes that were partially animated that I didn't have time to finish that would change the trajectory of the characters, and even small scenes that I wanted in there that I just couldn't get in. So that's why we felt that it was
exactly not complete.
Yeah.
So do you remember what kind of changes you made? What stories did you kind of take out or tweak to make it match the budget you had?
I can't remember very well. I know that they were at the zoo, but they thought they were in Africa, but their balloon had not gone as far as they thought.
Oh, no. Okay.
And then there was a scene in Russia. Again, I can't remember all the specifics. And then at the end, I wanted the two Interpol men to be in the last scene so that they could be with the Chipmunks and Chipettes and apologize for scaring them. So there were a lot of things that I really wanted in that, that just couldn't make it. And I don't know if you noticed, and maybe I shouldn't even say this, but during the end scenes, they're somewhat rushed and not the animation isn't quite as good as the rest of the film. I should probably not even say that, but
now I need to rewatch it again. I do see what you mean though, because the ending does feel rushed. Just watching the story, just like, oh, they're safe. Like Miss Biller saved them. It's over. Credits. I can see that as being a little rushed.
That's right. Oh no, I've just ruined the movie.
Yeah, it's in my top 50 of all time. I'm sorry. No, it's amazing, even though I know that it's not what you imagined, what you envisioned, but I still think it's flawless in my little childhood eyes that I watched it in. So.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
And the music in that.
I know. I just had, I just had independent songwriters send in songs, and it was so fun to pick all the different moods and songs. We just had a plethora of choices. So that was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, Diamond Dolls, the Girls of Rock and Roll. Like I said, I made my own little soundtrack, and those were on my soundtrack as well.
Well, it's great because people come up and say, "Oh my God, I love the Balloon movie," and sometimes they reenact a song, like the Girls of Rock and Roll. They'll just reenact it right in front of me.
Uh-huh.
I just love it.
Oh, that's great.
They do all the dance moves. It's such a thrill.
That's great. There's one song that doesn't really, as an adult, it's a little odd now. Getting Lucky, when they sing it to the Snakes. It's a little odd now that I watch it as an adult.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Someone came to us, a director, Mel Damsky. He was going to put it in his movie. And we were moving to Santa Barbara at the time, and he wanted to introduce us to the songwriter that wrote Getting Lucky because he decided he couldn't put it in his movie. And so we just sort of fit it in because
Interesting.
we met the guy, we liked the guy, but that's very astute, Tim.
Yeah.
Very astute.
As a kid, I loved it. I loved that scene. But as an adult, it's like, that's a little strange.
Well, you're right.
Now, you were also listed as a color key artist. What does that mean? What did you do for that? And did you only do it on the movie, or did you do it as well on the animated series?
I did it on everything.
Okay.
I have, color's always been very, very important to me. And even when I was little, I was affected by color choices in animation. The building that we lived in was this sort of pukey green, and I asked my mom if is the green cheaper than the other colors. I was always obsessed with colors. So when Ross and I began our first special at Chipmunk Christmas, I began giving notes on color for everything, characters and props and backgrounds. And then I got even more involved when we started our TV series because I realized that great animation was going to be too expensive for TV, but I could make the shows look better, simply by using better colors. It's the cheapest way to make a show look better.
Uh-huh.
And then when I directed Chipmunk Adventure, I had even more control. And Tim, I color keyed every pencil, every hat, every costume, every shoelace. I'm not even kidding. And every prop. I love color.
Wow.
And this is continued on our new TV show. I set the color for all the 260 episodes. And then I worked with my daughter who knows my aesthetic, so now she helps me tremendously.
Oh, that's awesome.
And but I love to see listen, before that you didn't really see shows like Encanto or Rio. There weren't these beautiful, bright, animated, they've taken it to the next level. They're just gorgeous. But that was something I always was passionate about.
Huh. And it's awesome that like you said, you're kind of passing it on to your kids. Like, let's fast forward nowadays, like you said, Michael and Vanessa are involved in the new series, Alvin the Chipmunks. And so she's also doing, a key artist as well in that too?
A color key artist?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's helping. We're a very small little group here. We are four of us. And we work out of the house, and we have an engineer here in the house as well. But, when I started writing this series, I had to write 52 episodes per season. And the kids would look over my shoulder, they'd read a story, and they would give their notes. And then they started saying, Mom, why don't you write a show about this or write a show about that? And finally I said, no, you guys write it. And they did. And it was a learning curve in the beginning, but they quickly got very good at it. And because we do 90% of the voices, and I knew they could do voices, I asked them to get in front of the mic. When they were little, I would set up the camera and we would do these improvs. And Vanessa was always a little English woman who took me and my baby in and fed us and gave us food. And she, we would do so many voices. So I knew they could do it. And they were very reluctant. And I almost felt like one of those horrible stage mothers. But I actually needed them to do voices. So I said, look, stand in front of the mic and make a fool out of yourself. That's all there is. You're not going to die. And again, they weren't too pleased with me, but they finally did it, and now it's second nature. But it's uncomfortable, when you're not. That's not your vocation to just, stand in front of a mic and and do a character.
Yeah, it's a little awkward. It's not natural.
Right. And so now they're pros at it. They also edit and they write and they design. It's just been a joy to see how they've taken it on. But they're not going to take them over.
That's what I was wondering. Yes, that's what I was wondering. If are they in line to take over?
Well, because it is 7 days a week. I don't think, and they see how hard we work.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the life ultimately that they would want. And because we care so much about the show being as good as it can be, it takes extra time. My son said to me, he came up to me just exhausted after writing a show that he had done, and he says, "I get it, Mom. When you care, you're screwed." And it's true. When you care, you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean they're your kids that you've had for 40 some odd years.
That's right. And you want to do right by them, and you want to do right by an audience who's been so loyal and so with us for all these years. I don't take that. None of us take that for granted. Mm-hmm. That's a real gift.
So what is in store for the Chipmunks? Anything that you can talk about that's coming up? And the show's still up and running on Nickelodeon, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Nicktoons.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I'm a little out of the loop when it comes to newer cartoons, but I did watch a couple episodes when it first came out, and I love that the voices are there, the intro is there, and the feel, the love and the passion is still there too.
Thank you. I did have to redesign the characters because after the movie, where they were, more live action characters, I sort of had to do a hybrid to ease the new kids into the new look.
That's an interesting question. Real quick, for the live action movies, was there ever talk or a chance of them looking like they did, in the 70s, 80s, or are they always kind of looking for that real look of a chipmunk?
Well, the studio really wanted very real-looking chipmunks, which I didn't, because I wanted a semblance of recognition. And so I wanted to make it as real as I could so that you actually believed, okay, these humans and these chipmunks are believable in this world, but maintain some of their character from the shows.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And I only had a day to design them.
Wow. Because
the movies went at such a fast pace. We'd start in March and it would be out in December. So you have to turn it in I think late October. So there wasn't a lot of time. And then for this new show, I wanted to, a lot of the kids grew up on the movies. So it's always a delicate balance. You don't want to turn people off, but you just need to do what's right at the time.
Yeah, just meet in the middle, which I think that's what you've done with it nowadays, is just met in the middle. Looks great. I can tell as a 42-year-old, it's Alvin the Chipmunks.
I would walk around with a picture of the CGI design, and I'd say to a kid, I'm weird in that way. Wherever we would go, I would show a picture, and I'd go, "Who's that?" And they all go, "Alvin!" And I go, "Okay, good."
I'm still doing it right.
There we go. It's working.
Oh, that's awesome. A little creepy, but that's awesome. No, I'm just kidding. I'm glad that it mattered that much to you, though, that you wanted to keep everything, the same, and don't go too far from what Ross Sr. kind of did.
Well, yeah, because I loved what he did, but it was so stylized for the 60s.
Yep.
So I wanted to give him a more classic classic work for our shows in the 80s. And then kept, they just kept changing a bit with the times.
Yep, which you needed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, all right, Janice. Anything else coming up that you wanted to talk about, promote, or anything really?
Well, I'm working on something very exciting that I wish I could tell you about, but I can't yet. But when I can, I will. I'll let you know.
Absolutely, I'm holding you to that.
You should. And I will let you know.
Yes, please do. And again, thank you so much for your time. Huge fan of your work since I was very little.
I love that. I love hearing that.
This has been amazing to talk to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Saturday Morning Rewind. Please check them out on Facebook and Twitter. And that's all, folks.